25 minutes at the most before we turn over. So we take quick questions and we start from the back and move forward. And we'll start with questions.
Great,
yeah.
It's nice to see you. Can you hear me? Could this thing? Yeah. Well, it's great to be here. I didn't think I'd ever end up in this part of town, but there you go. It's good. Yeah, okay. So, thanks for coming out to see the movie. You can ask me whatever you like, you know, if you have good questions. Yes, sir.
You guys do a rock and roll star.
That's what they tell me, yeah.
The rest of us, most guys in the West wanted to be a rock and roll star. I'm sure you wanted to be a rock and roll star. And one of the big reasons is, you know...
Actually, I wanted to be a plumber, but it just didn't work out.
So, you know, money for nothing, chicks for free. That's, you know...
Everything has its price, I think.
Well, if you could, for the guys that wanted to be the rock and roll star and thought about getting the girls, can you tell us, like, reality of that versus our fantasy of it?
Okay, so it's a sort of sex education. This is a good place to start, you know. Well...
It's a serious...
Yeah, well, there's a lot of fringe benefits. I mean, I'm not really sure what the question is. Yes, you know, you have aspirations. I mean, sure. I mean, becoming a rock and roll star, as you put it, is, I don't think it was ever like, don't think I ever came up with that formula. I just wanted to be a good guitarist. That was really what drove me on all my life, is to be the best possible musician and guitar player I could. And the rest is all gravy. Now, when you get to the distorted reality that we did with the police, of course, you know, it's become sort of amazing what goes along with it. It's sort of like the last days of Rome, and I don't really have to spell it out, but of course, it's a man's world. I enjoyed it, you know, it's great.
Next
Is that
question.
the answer?
I'm going to start in the back. Gentleman in the center there.
What are your top 3 favorite cover tunes to play?
3 cover tunes?
Yeah, covers. Covers.
Okay, Walk, Don't Run by the Ventures, originally written by Johnny Smith. You know that one? Good one.
Yeah.
So,
No, I don't.
well, you're talking about other people's music. You don't?
Yes.
Oh, okay, we've got room here. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, it's pretty good, you know, pretty simple, 2 notes. It's an interesting question. I don't know about. I don't normally play other people's cover songs, but Peggy Sue.
Gentleman in the back right there.
The Police finished Synchronicity in New York. You played in Giant Stadium in '86, and then you finished the reunion here in New York. What's the significance of New York to the Police?
Well, you know, it's the first place we played as a band in the US, and it was very important for us. We played at CBGB's when we were completely unknown and just about to give up, and it was coming to the US and playing at CBGB's in New York, which was, you know, our first little mini renaissance. It's what really put us together as a band, got us signed to A&M Records in the US, and then it all bounced back to the UK, and then, you know, of course it took off around the world. So, you know, that's one of those moments, that little 3-week tour which we did in like November, freezing cold, and it was absolutely significant for us, and those are the days that you really, in memory, rather than the blur of the later years, it's those first moments like that that you really cherish. It's very important.
Thank you.
Gentleman in the far back.
I have a question. When you guys did the Don't Stand So Close to Me for the greatest hits,
Yeah.
were you guys expecting to get back together, or was that...
Well, it's an interesting, it was I think other people were hoping for that, you know, but I don't know if it was really going to happen. But actually, significantly, what happened was we were in the studio trying to do it, but incredibly, Stuart went out playing polo on horseback and fell off and broke his collarbone. That basically ended it right there because he couldn't play the drums. So, you know, basically it was all over with that injury to Stuart, and it just really didn't happen, so fate took a hand, I think. Yeah.
Next question. Baseball cap, left side.
Yeah, hi Andy.
Hi.
When you guys got back together, you were mentioning in the movie that you played a bit during the sound checks. Was there any real talk of ever doing new material?
not really. I mean, it would have been great, and I certainly wished for it. That that would have been the ideal thing, but I don't think Sting was up for it at that time. I think, it would be in a thought. But here's another sort of sidebar issue to it: is that, of course, we did those tour in 2007, 2008, very expensive tickets, and people expected us to play all the hits, of course, which, as you know, we have many, and that's the sort of cage we built for ourselves. We couldn't really probably do new material. We had to go out and play all the hit songs, and that's what the show was all about. And thank God we've got them. But in a more ideal world, I think we would have gone on and oh yeah, this is great. Let's do all this new material. But you know what? It ain't over yet. Who knows where it's going to go? Yeah.
Young gentleman in the blue shirt.
Okay, so when you were like in the police and still now, would you want to write your own songs, or you think like you would stay behind someone?
You want to know if you'd rather write your own songs or if you want to be behind somebody?
Like Sting.
Now, which answer should I give to that without being offensive? Well, I think you could do both things, actually. I've written many, many songs of my own, and I like writing songs. I like to write music, and I've played for years writing all my own compositions and recording them. So I've done that. But Sting is a great and gifted songwriter, So really, I think you try to take your values outside of that and just see what is the material that's being presented and what can I bring to it. The thing about the Police is the songwriting is important. The thing that really sold it across the world is the sound of the three of us playing together. That is the sound. No one else could sound like that. That was the magic combination, that we could transform any piece of material and make it sound like the Police. Yes.
Gonna come forward, woman, lady in the polka dot shirt.
Hi.
Hi, Andy. What are you doing nowadays, and what was your favorite Police song, your personal favorite song?
Well, my own personal favorite was always Message in a Bottle, because I love the guitar part, and I like the structure of the song, and it was always very exciting to play. And it really seems to be the defining song. It's in some ways more than Roxanne, which is a hard thing to say, actually. And what am I doing now? Well, I got this movie out, so I'm not idle. This is taking up really quite a lot of time and space, and happily so. I'm glad to see it finally. It's sort of a tangible experience finally, because it's taken us a while to get it out, and hopefully we're going to get it out all across the world now. So this is quite time-consuming. But outside of that, I just finished a film score. I've got another record in the works. I play in China a lot. I toured in Brazil in November, going back. I'm, very active. I can just about keep up with it all, as well as this business. Yeah.
Gentleman center with black, yes. Sweater, yeah. Yes.
Why do you shoot in black and white?
Why do I shoot in black and white? That's. Well, I think it's better than color, actually. Yeah. For me, it was almost the most powerful medium of photography, and I don't know if I articulated this very much when I was young, but one of the sort of high-flown answers I've sort of come up with over the years is that I started into it because when I was a kid, 15, 16, 17, I went to see all these European art house films, by Fellini and Truffaut and Bergman and so on, and I was so influenced by that, with this sort of longing for whatever those films represented to me. And I always thought that in a small way, when I really started to get serious about photography and looking at photography, photographing images and the work of people like Robert Frank, that there's something about the power of the black and white photograph that was very moving to me. In fact, the truth is, all three of us got divorced. It was such a strain on a marital situation. It's just pretty much almost impossible to have the two things. Because we were a band, but it wasn't just a normal band that was doing a few gigs. It was sort of a worldwide phenomenon. We were just swept off our feet the next 7 or 8 years. It was incredible. It was just like this surrealistic blur. When I think back about my headspace then, it's like, oh my God. Very difficult and very hard on a marriage. But in my case, I had a fairy tale ending, because I did get back with my beautiful wife 4 years later, and she immediately got pregnant with twins, and that sealed the deal. I ain't leaving now.
Right there?
Three-parter. Favorite part of the movie, least favorite part of the movie, and did Sting ever play bass on any of your songs?
Yes, he did actually. You know, one time I made an album called Charming Snakes, and he did come in and play bass with that. You know, there's been little bits and pieces over the years. You know. What's the other part?
Favorite part of the movie and least favorite part of the movie.
I like the bit at the end where I'm singing "Shine" actually. Oh, yeah, that's good, cute. And least favorite part.
Hardest to watch.
There's a few backstage scenes that are a little bit brittle, I think, you know. God, you know. A bit painful, yeah.
Gentleman right there with the black chapeau.
I saw you guys when you came to New York on the last tour, and I thought you sounded really tight. I was very impressed at how you had pulled it together, and I think that was already a ways into the tour. I'm just curious, having seen the scene from the tour rehearsal.
Yeah.
It looked like you were having some real disagreements about how to put the music back together. I'm just wondering how hard it was for you,
you know,
after all that time to have it click again.
Yeah, no, the music was not hard to put together. We all knew how to do it, and we were all playing great. It was more like having to set up sort of psychological barriers. It was sort of like wrestling for control. That was what it was really about. It was all about psychology. It wasn't about the playing. So if you see anything like that in film, it's pointing to another truth, actually, in my opinion. Not the music.
Lady right here in the black and white.
Hi, I've been a big fan for a long time, and whenever I hear the music, I always think this is just great. And there are only really two bands that I really think that about, you and the Beatles. And for
Good
you,
taste.
and it's always good. It's always a pick up. For you, do you have a group or an artist that does that for you every time?
Well, always go back to and go, yeah, always, it's always there. Probably, I have to think about that. You mean like a popular artist?
Anyone.
Well, you know, there's lots of great jazz musicians. Yeah, Miles Davis, maybe. You know, never disappoints for me. For instance, someone like that. I actually like Frank Sinatra. Amazing. Yeah.
Okay, here, white t-shirt.
You mentioned the police sound. Did you discuss the sound as a band? And how would you describe the police sound? It is a unique sound.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, three people get together with their way of playing, and I think we sort of discovered it. Well, I don't know that we went like, there was no moment where we went, what is our police sound? We didn't really do that. I think it came out of like sort of, well, I like to call it procedure by negation. We don't want to sound like that, we don't want to sound like that, we don't want to be like them. We, you know, trying to avoid sounding like anyone else. And it sort of just came about organically. Partly, you know, as sort of Sting and I discovered each other sort of musically in the very early days, and you know, I maybe more than 3 chords under my hands, you know, that we could, he would start to react that I could play weirder stuff. You know, I wasn't going to just play, you know, bar chords the whole way. And Stuart started to do all the stuff on the hi-hat, and then Sting started to sort of semi-adopt the reggae bass line, playing sort of half times because it gave him more freedom with the vocals. And then I started using Echoplex and opened up the sound in a big spacey way, and you know, suddenly you had this sort of edgy rock sound but with a lot of space, and it didn't sound like punk anymore. The only way you can describe it is the sound of the police. Really, but what is it? Well, it's just the way the 3 of us played together is really what it was, you know, and it's sort of in its own category. Some people say it's very hard. The Police will never become popular because you can't copy their sound. It's too difficult. They used to say that, and I know how true that is, but it was really a mechanism that the 3 of us worked out together. You know.
Next, right there, gentlemen, glasses.
Yeah, sorry, I had a very similar question. But you know, if you open recording software, there'll always be like a, you know, candy in a bottle sort of plug in.
Yeah.
Always have a very signature guitar sound.
Yeah.
And it's at one point I kind of thought it was dated. Now I don't think it's dated. I think it's very much transcended into popular music. But your particular guitar sound, I mean, how much of that is sort of a product of the times, and how much of that is something that perhaps a producer suggested? Because it's like,
Yeah,
You know,
how does it come about? Well, no, it's a good point, and at that time I was very much, we were a trio, and I really wanted to sound different, and I was also very aware that it's only three of us. I should, we've got to go on and play for at least an hour and a half, and I need to sort of colour the sound very much differently on each song. So of course I started to find out what was around, electronic devices that I could play to, and I'd work them so that I could really change the guitar sound a lot. So in other words, you weren't just going to get one guitar sound for an hour and a half. I was going to colour it behind the songs themselves all the way through the show. So it was very willful and purposeful, and also I was searching around for the products that would help me to get to that place. Yeah.
So we just have time for a few more questions. I'm going to go to the front. Gentleman in green.
I like a two-part question. I find the name The Police, it's a very cool thing. And I think it did help. It's memorable and really works.
Well, I think by association, really, it's terrible.
Seriously, that's shit.
Yeah.
And I have a quick thing. When I got my first one in '81, when I was very young,
Yeah.
I told a friend, I just got a police record. He goes, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, okay. Right.
You never know.
Yeah.
But he talking about the other. But where did the name come about? Was it meant to be kind of tongue-in-cheek? Where did it come about?
Well, if you had to go back to London about 1978, 79, and we were in the middle of the absolute punk fury, the religious kind of punk fury that ruled London. And you had to have very edgy names. And, the police were sort of taking it to the wall. It was so stupid, and Stuart used to say, oh, well, could we get a lot of advertising? There's all these cars driving around with police written on the side. So, it was just sort of dumb shit at the time, but guess what,
Did you come up with a name then?
Yes, he did, But, this is public knowledge, but Stuart's father was one of the founders of the CIA, and, Miles, who managed us eventually, they always use names like CIA, FBI, they use all these kind of sort of paramilitary names for everything, just sort of kind of Mel thing. Stupid.
Let's go over here, gentleman green right there with the police shirt on.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for taking the time to come out to New York.
Thank you.
Any question about the film? How did the film change, I guess, from when you first imagined making it to how it is in this final product? Because I see you have the executive producer.
Yeah.
Is there anything like deleted or that you didn't have?
Well, yeah, of course, like in any film, there's probably about another 8 hours of footage. You can't put it all in. And, the process of translating it from the book into the film, of course, I had to personally make a lot of adjustments because, I wrote the book and I was so attached to what I'd written. And, this is a film, it's not a book. It's based on the book. So I have to make a lot of adjustments to, wanting every single page photographed exactly as I wrote it to make it into a film that moves with a lot of pace. When I did the voiceover, I couldn't just read out of the book. I had to sort of rephrase it in a more conversational way, which works a lot better on film. So, you sort of learn that as you go along. You work with people who have more experience in this vein than maybe I am, and you start to get it. There's a certain rhythm to it that's very different from a book. So yeah, I had to make some adjustments, definitely.
Okay, I think we have two more questions. Gentleman in front.
More of a comment than someone else's, but I only saw you guys on the reunion tour, and you sounded amazing. And one thing that I'd like to point out is that it was just the three of you.
Yeah.
You were doing the songs from the whole career. So, there were maybe little bits on tape, and I just want to say thank you for a lifetime memory.
Thank you very much. A small point is that, in the broad thing of all the people going out and doing concerts and having so much backup stuff, one small thing we could do is go out and just only prove it, that it is really just three guys playing.
And better than ever.
Thank you.
Last question here in the yeah.
Hi, big fan. I have a question. When I was watching the movie, I was very interested in watching you sort of walk around the streets in Japan and Tokyo, taking the black and white photos. And my favorite song from the piece, my favorite video is "So Lonely" when the group's roaming around Tokyo and it's so natural and you're interacting with people. And when I watched the film, the video on YouTube, and seeing the hairstyles and stuff, and the way like the subways look back in Tokyo in the day. And I was wondering, what sort of ideas, or what was your sort of contribution to that video, and if that time, that early time that you spent in Japan and in Asia kind of sparked a long time curiosity and interest in it?
Yeah, well, I think naturally I've always been interested in all these things, certainly Asian cultures, like a lot of people. Yeah, in the musical scene, you know, I mean, you know, it's not only looking at the guitar all day and night forever, you start to get interested in other things. So, you know, I can't say, like, for instance, playing in Japan gave me a definite idea, but I find traveling in these places to be, which I continue avidly to this day. I'm in China all the time now, but, you know, I've loved going to Japan over and over again, and I don't know, just stimulates you mentally to think broader and get input from other cultures. I think it's very important as an artist that you take in a lot of other stuff and that you get a lot of other points of view. Yeah.
Whose idea was it to do the video in that way?
Which one are you talking about?
So Lonely. I don't know if that's the exact title.
Oh, do you mean? Oh, I think I know the one you mean. We're in a subway.
Tokyo,
No, it's in that's that's in Hong Kong.
That was in Hong Kong?
Yes, it was. Is that a cheap suit?
Whose idea was it to film it in that way?
Well, I think it was our idea. We said let's just make an insane video. That's where I get the suit made by the Hong Kong tailor and all that stuff. Yeah, I told him to do all this crazy stuff, right? Yeah.
Okay, one last question right there in the center.
Hi, did you get to see The Last Ship? And what did you?
No, I didn't see it. No, because I was in Los Angeles where I live. I didn't make it across the country. But I heard the CD very early. That's all. That's the only thing I heard. I didn't get to see it. Sorry.
Okay, very last question right here.
Is there a part B for everything that happened afterwards and the collaborations that you've had and when you went back to your family life?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I sort of wrote a lot in the book. You know, you have to really pare it down ultimately. I've sort of toyed with the idea of getting to the other section, you know, because I've made so many records and toured so much and did so many collaborations around the world. Post-Police, you know, it didn't actually stop, you know. I mean, I made far more records outside of the Police than I did with, you know, a lot more, all kinds of things. Different genres, you know, I've played everywhere. I mean, it's never still going, I hope. They haven't asked me to stop yet, but you never know.
So we do have to wrap it up. We will have some time for one autograph per person, whoever brought stuff. And no post photos, but let him get outside.
I'll see you outside.